Hi, welcome to my channel Stars of Terra. Every story you hear here is told in my own real voice with real emotion, real effort, no reuse content, original human storytelling. So let's begin. I warned them not to drag Earth into their war. I said it in chambers carved from dying stars and beneath banners staged from their skins of extant empire. I said it calmly while their admirals laughed and their diplomats adjusted crowns too heavy for their narrow skulls. Earth was young by their reckoning and small by their standard. A quiet blue word tugged into an unmarked able spiral arms. They thought that made it harmless, they thought that made it weak. The Orvex Dominion had been fighting the Chiral Syndicate for near a century. Star system burned like candles in a storm and entire spaces vanished between one council meeting and the next. Desperation makes fool of the powerful and the Dominion had grown desperate. They wanted a staging ground. A neutral world with oceans deep enough to hide fleets and a population naive enough to manipulate. Earth looked perfect on their star charts, primitive defenses, fractured governments, no unified planetary shield, a world divided against itself. I stood before them as community envoy, though I was born light years away. My species had learned long ago that humans were not be underestimated. We had traded with them, studied them, even fight them once. We learned the cost of misjudgment. Leave Earth out of this, I told the council. Fight your war at the edges of non-space if you must, but do not bring it to their doorstep. The high strategist of the Dominion leaned forward, his eyes gleaming like molten metal. And why? He asked. Should we for our divided spaces still arguing over borders and beliefs? Because I replied, division is not the same as weakness. They mistake community noise for chaos. They mistake debate for indecision. They mistake compassion for fragility. I had seen humans unite when threatened. I had watched them turn cities into fortresses overnight and civilians' factories into engines of war. I had seen farmers become soldiers and scientists, become architects of terrifying innovation. I had seen what happens when Earth is given a common enemy. The council chamber buzzed with amusement. Some recorded my warning as a curiosity. Others dismissed it entirely. The vote to establish a Dominion forward base in Earth's outer system passed within minutes. They did not even conceal their fleets when they arrived. Massive warship pierced the solar boundary like blades through silk. Satellite detected them within hours. Earth did what Earth always does. It watched, it argued, it prepared. I sent one final transmission to the Dominion High Command. You still have time to withdraw. They responded with silence, and the silence in the language of empires is the sound of arrogance. At first, humanity tried diplomacy. Signals were broadcast in every non mathematical format. Languages were installed at impossible speed. Requests for clarification flooded Dominion channels. The Dominion answered with demands. Surrender orbital control, provide mineral access, permit installation of military infrastructure. Earth's government structured along predictable lines. Some urged compliance, others demanded resistance. But something else was happening beneath the noise. For the first time in century, the world's superpowers shared intelligence without hesitation. Military, satellite, synchronized targeting grid. Rival nations opened bunkers, long sieges, but distrust. Scientists were granted eliminated budgets and absolute authority. The Dominion misread it as panic. They mistake emergency sessions for desperation. They mistake unity for submission. I watched from a civilian transport station beyond Mars. I was not permitted to intervene. Officially, my people were neutral. Unofficially, we were bracing for impact. Earth's first move was not an attack, it was a message. A single transmission sent directly to the Dominion flagship. You are trespassing in a sovereign system. The Dominion replied by deploying fighters into low orbit. They targeted unarmed satellite as a demonstration of power. Metal debris rained harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. It was meant to intimidate, instead it unified. Within 48 hours, Earth's industry shifted to wartime production. Factories that once produced electric vehicles began assembling interceptor donors. Private space companies merged under emergency acts. Launch schedules multiplied tenfold. Human engineers did something the Dominion had not anticipated. They adapted civilian technology for military use at breathtaking speed. Communication arrays become weapon guidance system. Mining lasers were recalibrated for orbital defense. Then came the surprise. Hidden beneath layers of bureaucratic secrecy and international rivalry was a project no alien intelligence had fully catalogued. A planetary defense network built quietly over decades under the justification of asteroid protection. Real guns embedded in mountain ranges. Orbital platforms disguised as research stations. When the Dominion moved a cruiser closer to Earth's atmosphere, the sky answered. A tungsten projectile accelerated to impossible velocity struck the cruiser flank. Shields flagged and collapsed, the vessel listed burning. For the first time in generations, the Dominion fleet hesitated. I closed my eyes and disappeared to an empty room. I warned you. The Dominion escalated. Pride demanded it. Reputation required it. Three battle cruisers advanced toward Earth in tight formation. Their hulls shimmered with layered shielding capable of withstanding stellar flare. They unleashed coordinated bombardment aimed at disabling defense platform. Earth responded with coordination no one believed it capable of. Military forces that once conducted war games against each other now shared command protocols. A unified planetary defenses council assumed authority over every nuclear arsenal, every satellite, every submarine. Lines that had divided continents blurred in the face of extinction. Humanity did not outgun the Dominion, it outmaneuvered them. Swarm donors overwhelmed targeting system. Cyber warfare infiltrated Dominion command algorithms. Engineers exploited microsecond shield fluctuations detected from the first skirmish. The second cruiser fell not to brute force but to precision. A synchronized strike exploited a harmonic weakness in its shield frequency. The explosion lit Earth's night side brighter than a false dawn. Panic rippled through the Dominion ranks. They had expected conquest, they found resistance. Then humanity did something truly terrifying. It broadcast the battle live. Every victory, every loss, every sacrifice transmitted across the planet. Citizens watched and understood the stakes. There was no room left for Daniel. Volunteers, field recruitment centers, cyber specialists worked without sleep. Children sent messages to orbiting soldiers promising to rebuild whatever was lost. The Dominion attempted to fracture Earth through misinformation. They seeded false narratives and fabricated internal betrayals. But the shared threat had created a shared identity. Humanity was no longer divided by nation or ideology, it was united by survival. The third battlecruiser attempted retreat. Earth allowed it, not out of mercy, but design. A final projectile was launched as it crossed the outer boundary of the system, not to destroy, but to scar. The damaged cruiser limped back to Dominion space, crying a message etched into its hull by kinetic fire to not return. The war did not last years, it lasted weeks. But in those weeks, the galaxy recalibrated its understanding of Earth. The Dominion sued for armistice before their fleet was fully annihilated. Their envoy spoke of misunderstandings and strategic miscalculations. They requested negotiations of neutral ground. This time, the council chamber was silent when I entered. No one laughed, no one dismissed humanity as primitive. Earth's representative stood taller than before, not arrogant, not triumphant, simply aware. I warned you, I said quietly to the high strategist. He did not meet my eyes. The armistice terms were simple, complete withdrawal, reparation for orbital damage, formal recognition of Earth as a sovereign interstellar power. The Dominion agreed. When their fleets finally departed the solar system, Earth did not celebrate immediately. There were cities to repair, leaves to mourn, scars to acknowledge. But something irreversible had occurred. The nations of Earth, once locked in endless rivalry, had glimpsed their collective strength. They had tasted unity, and the galaxy had taken note. Other powers reached out, not with threats but with trade proposal. Cultural exchanges replaced military posturing. Earth had not sought dominion, it had demanded respect. As I departed the system weeks later, I looked back at the small blue words shining against the world. They had been underestimated. They would not be again. I warned them not to drag Earth into their war. They did not listen. Now, the silence between the stars carries a different message. Some worlds are quiet not because they are weak, but because they are waiting.